wattaqullah wattaqullaha innallaha khabirum bima ta'malun. ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون صدق الله العظيم. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sadaqallahul azim, sadaqallahul azim, wa nahnu dzalika minasyahidin wa syakirin. Thank you to Najwan who has recited verses from Noble Quran and inshallah will add to the blessing and smoothness of this agenda. Amin, amin ya Allah ya Rabbal Alamin. For the next session is singing the national anthem of Indonesia. For the national anthem, the audience please stay. Hold a moment, please. We have come to reading of Tazkia Value, which will be led by Refat Mukmin, an undergraduate Islamic accounting student of Tazkia Islamic University. Please repeat after him. Thank you. The audience, please be seated. Without further ado, let's take a look. Welcoming remark by Dean of Faculty of Islamic Economics and Business. Please welcome Bapak Wiku Suryomurti, Ph.D. The time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah bil alamin. All praise to be to Allah Subhanahu wa taala, the most merciful and the most compassionate, for granting us health, opportunity and blessing so that we can gather today to the meaningful academic forum. Salawat and salam be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who continue his mission of knowledge, ethic, and civilization. Distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Ryan Calder, respected speaker and moderator, Professor Dr. Murniati Mukhlisin, Dr. Ries Wulandari, and Mrs. Putri Siva Amalia, distinguished colleges, lecturers, students, researchers, and all participants joining us today on Zoom meeting. On behalf of the Faculty of Islamic Economic and Business, University of Tazkia, it's my great honor to pleasure to welcome all of you to this international guest lecture entitled The Paradox of Islamic Finance, Preparing for the Year of 2026 and 2046. We are also deeply honored by the collaboration and intellectual partnership reflected in this event, including the academic engagement with Johns Hopkins University. This gathering demonstrates that discussion of Islamic finance are no longer confined within regional boundaries, but are becoming part of broader global conversation about ethics, sustainability, justice, and the future of sustainable system. Students and lecturers and all participants, Islamic finance today stands at very interesting crossroad. File presentation. On one side, the industry continues to grow rapidly. Islamic banking assets are increasing. Sukuk market are expanding. Halal investment instruments are becoming more sophisticated. And fintech innovation is reshaping financial inclusion across many Muslim majority countries. However, on the other side, important question remains. Has Islamic finance truly fulfilled its higher objective? Has it successfully promoted social justice, equitable growth, and real economic empowerment? Or are we sometimes trapped in merely replicating conventional system with Islamic terminology? This is the paradox we must courageously discuss. Next slide. Yeah. The future of Islamic finance cannot rely only on compliance. We believe that it's not only compliance. It must also emphasize relevance. It cannot focus only on legality. It must also focus, create impact. We know about impact finance, impact investing, green finance. That's why Islamic finance should be also there. The period between 2026 and 2046 will be transformative. We will witness the acceleration of artificial intelligence, digital asset, green finance, climate-related risk, demographic shift, geopolitical uncertainty, as we know the current situation in Middle East, and also the changing nature of work and economic interaction. The artificial intelligence are shaping our day in today's situation. This development will challenge all financial systems, including Islamic finance. Therefore, institutions of higher education have an important responsibility. Next slide. University must not only produce graduates. Yeah, we not only produce graduates, academics who understand contract and regulation. We must produce thinkers, innovators, policymakers, and ethical leaders who are capable of shaping the future of Islamic economic and finance with wisdom and integrity. At Universitas Tazkia, we believe that Islamic economic is not merely an academic discipline. It's a civilizational project, one that seeks to balance material progress with spiritual value, efficiency with justice, and innovation with ethical responsibility. Bapak, Ibu, and Ban Mahasiswa, today's discussion is especially important because it invites us not only to celebrate the achievement of Islamic finance, but also to critically reflect on its limitation, contradiction, and future direction. I hope this forum will inspire constructive dialogue, interdisciplinary collaboration, and fresh perspective among academics, practitioner, regulator, and student. And to our student in particular, untuk mahasiswa, I encourage you to actively engage in today's session, ask questions, challenge assumption, and think beyond the textbook. The future of Islamic finance will eventually be shaped by your generation, not by us, not by me, not by Professor Murniati, etc. But the future of Islamic finance depends on your skills, your knowledge, and your effort to strengthen the Islamic finance, especially in Indonesia. Before I conclude, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all committees, faculty members, partners, and participants who contributed to organizing this event. My special gratitude also goes to our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Calder, for sharing his valuable insight and expertise with us today. So may this gathering bring beneficial knowledge, strengthen academic network, and contribute positively to the development of Islamic finance globally. Finally, by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I officially open this international guest lecture. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Bapak, for the warm remark and encouragement given. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we are entering the main session of this agenda. Okay, the international guest lecturer, but for this session will be presented and fully handed by our amazing moderator. Please welcome Ibu Putri Syifa Amalia.
Tes. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Abdullah, for giving me the opportunity to lead this wonderful session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, distinguished faculty members, lecturers, respected colleagues, and our wonderful students joining us both here in the auditorium and virtually via the online platform. Welcome to today's special seminar. My name is Putri Shiva Amalia, and it is my absolute honor and privilege to serve you as the moderator for today's session. Today, we are joined by three incredible speakers who will share their profound insight and expertise in our core topic, the paradox of Islamic finance, preparing for the year of 2026 to 2046. I would like to formally invite our three speakers for come to the stage. Let's give a warm welcome to our three speakers. Dr. Ryan Calder, please come to the stage. Please. And then the second speakers, Professor Dr. Murniati Mukhlisin. And our third speakers, Dr. Ries Wulandari. Okay, to start our session, I would like to formally introduce each of them by sharing a brief summary of their outstanding backgrounds. Please show the background of our speaker. Okay. The first one, we have Dr. Ryan Matsura Calder. He holds a Ph.D. and M.A. in sociology from the University of California, Berkeley, and graduated magna cum laude with the highest honor from Harvard University. He currently serves as an associate professor of sociology and the director of the program in Islamic studies at Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Calder is also a visiting scholar at Waseda University this year. His extensive research, professional consulting experience with McKinsey and Company and deep understanding of socioeconomic systems make his perspective invaluable. Please welcome Dr. Ryan Calder. Okay. Okay, and then our second speaker, okay, this is the profile, yeah. The second speaker is Professor Dr. Murniati Mukhlisin. I think most of us know her, right? No one doesn't know her, actually. She is highly distinguished professor of Islamic accounting and a prominent global figure in Islamic finance. She earned her PhD in Islamic accounting from the University of Glasgow, UK, with an extensive academic and professional career spanning across Indonesia, Malaysia, and the United Kingdom. She has published numerous impactful research papers on Sharia governance, financial reporting, and also Islamic wealth management. Her visionary insight will undoubtedly enrich our discussion today. Please welcome Professor Dr. Murniati Mukhlisin. Okay, and our third speaker, Dr. Ries Wulandari. She earned her doctoral degree from IPB University and her master degree of science in economics from the same institution. She is currently the vice dean of the Faculty of Islamic Economic and Business at Tazkia University, where she has also been a dedicated lecturer since 2011. Dr. Wulandari is a highly decorated researcher, having received multiple Best Paper Awards from Bank Indonesia and the Financial Service Authority for her work on banking stability, Islamic microfinance, and poverty reduction. Please welcome Dr. Ries Wulandari. Okay, now we will move into the main part of our event, where each speaker will deliver their presentation consecutively. Without further ado, let us welcome our first speaker, Dr. Ryan Calder, to deliver his speech. Dr. Calder, the floor is yours. Okay.
Mic check. Hello. All right. How can I forward the slides? Do you have a clicker or just say it? Okay. I can just say it. Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me at Tazkia University. It's a real honor to be here. And I want to thank Professor Murniati Mukhlisin, especially Professor Murniati Mukhlisin, who has been a wonderful, wonderful host. And also Dr. Ries Wulandari, Dean Wiku Suryomurti, and Ibu Shifa, and all the support staff who made this event possible. Thank you so much for coming. Please be critical of my presentation. When you ask questions like, I love criticism. That's what all academics should want, is for people to take their ideas seriously and then say, no, you're wrong because X or Y or Z. So please be critical. Or you forgot this, or what about this? Okay. Now, I normally present this in 1 hour, but I think I have about 20 minutes, 30. 30? Okay, so I will rush and I will skip half my presentation, sorry. Anyway, I wrote a book called The Paradox of Islamic Finance. If you'd like a copy, let me know. So, as Dean Wiku said, Islamic finance is growing very fast. It's growing even faster than conventional finance around the world. And it has continued to grow fast despite the global economic slowdown during COVID, as you can see here. These are the growth rates. I'm going to go very quickly until I get to the good part. It's a global, it's a global phenomenon. Here we see Islamic banking share in total banking assets by jurisdiction. Is there any way to make this bigger without the other stuff? Oh, thank you. Terima kasih. So yeah, I mean, we see that it's big in certain markets. 3 countries have Islamized their entire national banking systems: Iran, Sudan, and Somalia. But in countries where Islamic finance is competing through the market, it's still very big. In Saudi Arabia, it has 75% penetration in banking assets. In Brunei, 63%, Malaysia, 33%, and so on. As of last year, Indonesia, about 7 to 8%. Okay, so as you know, there are many kinds of Islamic financial products available. You can get auto finance, Islamic private equities, sukuk, Islamic credit cards, and so on. Even Islamic derivatives, although of course these are quite controversial with some Sharia scholars. So my book, The Paradox of Islamic Finance, asks 2 questions. First, why is there so much Islamic finance, but not much other religious finance around the world? Today, there is a $4 trillion Islamic finance industry, but there's very little Christian finance. You can find some mutual funds, Christian mutual funds. There is no huge Jewish finance industry or Hindu finance industry or Buddhist finance industry. Why? What is special about Islam? Now, the second question, Islamic finance today, as practiced in Islamic banks, Islamic funds, largely simulates the economic effects of interest, of riba, right? It has the same economic effects, usually, but it uses very different means to construct the products, right? We have different contracts, right? Like Aqda al-Ijara or Aqda al-Wakala or, Mudaraba, Musharaka, and so on, right? Many different approaches, but the economic effect is the same. You want an Islamic auto finance, same as a conventional auto finance. You buy a car, the car costs, somebody tell me how much a car costs in rupiah. 500 million, thank you, Dean. And then you pay back 550 million or 600 million every month for 5 years. And if you don't pay, usually the bank can take your car. So this is the same from an economic perspective as conventional finance. In fact, the rate, although in Islamic finance it is a profit rate, and in conventional finance it is an interest rate, is very often the same, 5% or 7% or whatever the market determines. Nonetheless, hundreds of millions of Muslims around the world take Islamic finance very seriously. They go to Islamic banks. Why? Now, this is not a criticism of Islamic finance by any means. I want to be very clear about that. If someone who is Muslim can walk into an Islamic bank and say, Alhamdulillah, this loan, I can drive this car, I can put my children in this car and know that it is not a ribawi product, and that I am okay with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if there is a problem with this product, then the Sharia scholars on Yawm al-Qiyamah will stand before God, and they will be facing his judgment and not me. So I can sleep better at night. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, personally. Frankly, my opinion does not matter. Like, I'm just a guy. I'm a sociologist. I'm not even Muslim. Although I have great respect for the religion of Islam and its many, many achievements. Profound respect. So I wrote this book. I won't bore you with this part, but I interviewed, about 290 people or 300 people from 20 different countries, including Indonesia, but mostly Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Malaysia, the UAE, and the UK, but also many other countries. I interviewed bankers, lawyers, accountants, consultants, government officials, economists, journalists. I did an Islamic finance training at a law firm in Malaysia, went to a lot of workshops, blah, 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 blah. Now, why is there an Islamic finance that is worth $4 trillion, but no Christian finance, Jewish finance, whatever, that is worth $4 trillion? That was question one. And question two, What? Oh, thanks. Terima kasih. Saya minum air. Sorry, putih, air putih. Terima kasih. Domo. Arigatou gozaimasu. Okay. I'm half Japanese. Yeah. So anyway, my point is, it's the Sharia scholars. It's the Sharia scholars, such as some of these people. I should have included some Indonesian scholars on this list, but these are some of the most famous scholars in the Islamic finance industry. I interviewed many of them. I interviewed Sheikh Nizam Yaqubi from Bahrain. I interviewed Muhammad Ali Al-Ghari from Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Yusuf Talati Lorenzo from the USA, Sheikh M.Si from Bahrain. I interviewed Sheikh Dr. Muhammad Imran Usmani, Sheikh Dr. Inku Rabia Alawiya from Malaysia. I spoke with all these people. But I also spoke with people, you know, at the bottom, like a teller in an Islamic bank. So my argument is that the Sharia scholars are like yeast in bread. Does everybody know what I mean by yeast? Okay. I don't know the word in Bahasa Indonesia. What is it? Ragi. Okay. Terima kasih. So like, bread has many ingredients, and you can even, it has flour and water and salt and so on. You can even put other things in it like nuts or raisins or chocolate, yeah? But if you put chocolate in it, it doesn't fundamentally change the bread, okay? It's still bread, whether you have chocolate or not. It's just chocolate bread, okay? But if you don't put in the yeast, it's not bread. What is it? It's a roti, right? Okay. So I argue that the Sharia scholars make Islamic finance successful. They make it able to grow in a capitalist world economy. They make it possible for Islamic banks to compete successfully against conventional banks. And they allow people to use Islamic finance and feel at peace, right? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? But how do they do this? What role do the Sharia scholars play? I argue that there are 4 important roles. I call them preservation, legitimation, justification, and restriction. But because I only have like 10 minutes maybe left. Are you sure? Okay. 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm only going to talk about 2 of them. And I'll just blow through the other ones really fast. I'll probably talk about justification and restriction. Okay. But I'll quickly explain what I mean by each of them. By preservation, I mean this. In Islam, there is a ban on riba, right? Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 275, Halallahu al-bay' wa harramu riba, right? God has permitted trade but prohibited riba. And some people, many Muslims, many Muslim scholars, many ordinary Muslims interpret riba to mean all interest, even 1 rupiah, right? But many Muslims have a different view, okay? It's not my position to say one is right or wrong. I'm just a guy. But why does this view still persist among hundreds of millions of Muslims that even 1 rupiah of interest is a sin? Whereas among Christians and Jews in particular, it's no problem. Well, maybe you'd say because Al-Quran al-Karim says, and there are many hadith that say other things, clearly saying riba is unacceptable. But, sorry, I'll skip this. Okay? This is 275. Should I turn this one off or it's okay? Okay. But if you look at the Bible, the Old Testament of the Jews and the Christians, you see something very similar in a book called Deuteronomy. Thou shalt not lend upon usury. Usury is basically riba. Okay? Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother, usury of money, usury of victuals. Victuals means food. And usury of anything that is lent upon usury. And in fact, if you go back to the Middle Ages in Europe, about 600 years ago, 700 years ago, the Christian church was very harsh against interest, even 1 rupiah of interest. Well, they didn't call it a rupiah, but you know. This was a picture of death coming for a banker. And there are many stories there's a story of a priest, a Christian priest. There was a banker who was dying. He was about to die. And he said, Father, please give me my last rites before I die. And the priest said, okay, my son, I will. And the church got very angry and they kicked that priest out of the church. This was very common. Of course, there were exceptions. The church itself was also a big money lender. So why does this disappear in other religions, but not in Islam? Well, I don't really have time to talk about the answer, but maybe in Q&A we can talk. Okay. Just to give you a taste, get you something excited about something. Okay. The second role that Sharia scholars play, I call legitimation. What do I mean by legitimation? The scholars have legitimacy among many Muslims. Many people think the scholars, Sharia scholars, including me, I think they are very learned people. They have a lot of knowledge, ilm, and particularly of fiqh, usul al-fiqh, right? Things like this. They study, as you know, they may study for 10 years, 20 years, right? Some incredible length of time. And through history, they have been quite respected by many Muslims around the world. In Islamic finance, they take this legitimacy, the respect that people have for them, and they transfer it, I believe, to Islamic banks. Okay, I'm going to skip this part again because interest of time, but that's my second argument. Okay. Now, I'm going to focus on 2 other roles. 10 minutes. Terima kasih. Okay. One role I call justification. What do I mean by this? They interpret Islamic law in ways that justify the creation of financial products that can compete in a market, right? They use certain interpretations. Some people talk about this as ijtihad, right? But what exactly are they doing? Let me skip this. So, well, I won't skip it actually. Let me start by saying this is not something new. Obviously, all of you know that through Islamic history, there has been adaptation to changing economic conditions, changing social conditions. Just one example of many. In the 1930s in India, under the law of the Hanafi madhab, imagine that a woman and a man were married, but then the man disappeared and no one knows what happened to him. Under the law of the Ahnaf, under Hanafi law, she could not get remarried for 90 years. 90. Basically, she could not get remarried, right? But in 1939, for a number of reasons, various Sharia scholars in India got together and said, we need to change this. So what did they do? They borrowed law from the Malikis, okay? And the Maliki opinion was that it was not 90 years, it was 4 years that you had to wait. And this became national law, national Islamic law as well. Right? So this thing happens all the time. But how is it happening in Islamic finance? How many of you know what a murabaha is? Raise your hand, please, if you know what murabaha is. Raise your hand if you're still awake. Okay, we're all sleeping. Okay, that's fine. Well, then I won't explain what a murabaha financing is. But this is a very simple example of a murabaha financing to buy a car. Okay. The bank buys the car for 500 million rupiah, and then in a bay' naqd, right? You guys know what a bay' naqd is? A spot payment. Just I give you a car, you give me cash, okay? And then the bank sells it to the customer as a bay' mu'ajjal, right? Or I think in Malaysia they call it the bay' thaman ajil, right? BBA, right? BBA. Okay? You know how this works. Okay, skip this. This is the water. Now, one of the results of this that allows Islamic finance to be competitive in a capitalist market is that you can have the same pricing for conventional and Islamic products, right? So like this is from CIMB Bank in Malaysia. This is CIMB Islamic Bank in Malaysia. And as you can see, the interest rate on passenger vehicles is 2.6 to 2.0% for a regular loan. The Islamic rate for a murabaha financing is 2.6 to 2.7% for an Islamic auto financing. Exactly the same, right? Why is this possible? One reason historically I learned in my research. First of all, there's the issue of wad. How many of you know the well, not but wad? How many of you know what this means? Wad. Yes, a promise, a unilateral. Yes, a promise. Okay. Now, here's a question. I have a daughter. She's 7. said, Papa, I want ice cream. I said, we don't have time for ice cream today. I want ice cream tomorrow. Okay, you can have ice cream. I promise. Tomorrow comes and I'm very busy with work and whatever. We don't have time to get ice cream. Can she? Well, first of all, have I violated Islamic law? Or am I just like not behaving very well? Second, can this be enforced in an Islamic court? Can my daughter take me to court and say, Papa said ice cream on Tuesday. He did not deliver ice cream on Tuesday. Papa, judgment. Well, most classical scholars in all the madahib, all the four madahib, the Sunni, and also, well, Jafaris are a little bit different, but they say a unilateral promise, a one direction promise. I promised her only, but she did not promise to give me anything back. Okay. I was not like, I'll give you ice cream if you give me, money or something. We did not do that. It was just, I'll give you ice cream. They say this is not a contract, it is not binding. It is just a promise. Allah and the Prophet Muhammad say you should keep your promises. So maybe I'm a bad father, but I've not broken Islamic law. But one Maliki jurist, Ibn Shubruma, and a few others had a minority position. They said, yes, wa'ad can be binding on you by law. Now, why am I talking about this? Okay, go back to Murabaha. How do I do this? Okay, sorry. Okay. So let's say I want to buy a BYD car, right? Yeah? And I tell the bank, buy me a BYD car so we can do a murabaha. And the bank buys the BYD car. And they want to sell it to me. But then I say, wait a minute. No, I don't want a BYD. I want a Toyota. Sorry. And the bank says, but now we have a BYD. What are we going to do with the BYD? Nobody else wants to buy it. What do we do? This is a huge problem for the bank, right? A bank is not a car dealer. They're not in the business of selling cars. They're in the business of money. So this was a problem in the early years of Islamic banking, 1975, 76, 77, 78. And in 1979, a group of Sharia scholars got together at the first conference of Islamic banks in Dubai. And some of them agreed that we can make wa'ad binding following the opinion of Ibn Shubruma. This was a minority opinion. In Islamic law, we call this a takhayyur or a talfiq, sort of bringing together opinions from different madahib. Some scholars don't like this. Yeah, talfiq really more than takhayyur. Yeah. Talfiq is like patching them together. Takhayyur is sort of choosing them, right? Some scholars do not like this, but at this conference and after this conference, some Sharia scholars said, okay, we can follow Ibn Shubruma. Other Sharia scholars said, no, I'm not okay. And the scholars who said yes tended to stay in the industry as Sharia scholars. So I spoke with Sheikh Yusuf Talal Di Lorenzo, who is one of the most famous scholars in Islamic finance. He's also from the United States. He converted to Islam. Yes, or reverted, if you want to put it that way. Yes. MashaAllah. And he said this about this issue of wa'ad. The scholars whose motivation is to see business happen, to see business take place and work, to move the project forward, those are the ones that the Wall Street types, the Wall Street bankers from New York and London and Frankfurt and Geneva and Dubai and Riyadh and Kuala Lumpur and Bahrain, those are the ones that they connected to because they said, we need to move forward. But if there was one who said, no, I don't accept this interpretation of wa'ad from Ibn Shubruma, okay, you don't have to accept it. But we're not going to put you on our Sharia board as a bank, right? Who can blame the Islamic banks at this very early stage? You know, today it's like Islamic bank, okay, sure. But I interviewed people then who said, in 1970, if you said Islamic bank, this was like saying Islamic whiskey. What does it even mean? So, in such an environment, Islamic banks, nobody believed them. Maybe they were a scam. Were they really Islamic? They needed some kind of legitimacy. And they also needed to be able to compete against conventional banks, or they would just disappear. So I'm going to stop here because I don't have enough time. But just to make the point that Islamic law is dynamic, Sharia is dynamic, fiqh is dynamic. It adapts to new circumstances. And Islamic finance is a fascinating example of this way that Sharia changes and develops in relation to the market. And this has had real consequences. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. So who knows what fiqh al-mu'amalat is? I mean, many of you study fiqh al-mu'amalat. It is the law of Islamic law of transactions, right? When many Muslim regions in the world were under the control of European imperialists, British, French, Dutch, often they said this, oh yeah, marriage law, you know, aqd and nikah, okay, Muslims, you can do whatever you want. We don't care. Other kinds of Islamic law, okay, you can keep studying it. Laws about money and economy? No. You're going to use European law. You're going to use our law, the colonial powers law. You're going to use French law. You're going to use Dutch law. You're going to use British law. Because they wanted to make the laws conform with their vision of extracting from the colonies, extracting wealth. So as a result of all the areas in the study of Sharia, fiqh al-mu'amalat became, few people studied it by the 1960s and 1970s. But today, I heard this from Sheikh Nizam Yaqubi of Bahrain. He sits on more Sharia boards than anyone in the world. And he said, fiqh al-mu'amalat used to be the area of study that students didn't care about at Al-Azhar. They didn't even have classes, or if they had a class, read 5 pages, khalas. But now, in 2026, everyone wants to study fiqh al-mu'amalat. So Islamic finance is not, it's not only Islam that is transforming finance, but also in some ways, finance is transforming Islam and Islamic law and creating new opportunities, right? Okay, thank you so much. Terima kasih.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Ryan Calder, for such an insightful presentation. Okay, now let us welcome our second speaker, Professor Dr. Murniati Mukhlisin, to share her thoughts and research. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, nasta'inu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. May yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma shalli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Sadaqallahul azim. And a very good morning to Ryan. So you had very insightful presentations, and we really would like to post some questions later on. And Dr. Ries really appreciate your hard work with Dr. Wiku to arrange this seminar. And although everything was actually during the email conversations, we were like, Dr. Ryan has been traveling around the world, whether he really is happy to be with us, So thank you again, Dr. Ries. And of course, Sister Shifa has been actually making a wonderful crowd today. And of course, we also have some people also in the Zoom. So I would like to welcome them again to the seminar. And we have our scholars. He is our Ustad Abdul Mughni. He is a Fiqh Mu'amalah scholar, or he's been doing it for many, many years. He's in fact among the seniors in the university. He came a year before me, and I've been serving Tazkia for 24 years. So you can guess, I think he has been serving Tazkia for 25, 26 years. And we have our Professor Ahmad Firdaus. You met him in Jakarta 2 days ago. He's been with us for around 15 years, 10 years, I think. His area is on Islamic performance, strategic management. He has opportunity to work in Japanese company in Tokyo, or in other prefecture actually, Kyoto. Yeah, so he is very much a referred person in terms of quality assurance in Tazkia. And also outside Tazkia has been actually teaching or encouraging universities to make sure that they have a good quality assurance. And we have Dr. Fakhruddin. Dr. Fakhruddin is very much on Islamic study. So he is also on strategic management. And currently he is also leading the communications study program. And Dr. Wiku, of course, you know him. He is very much on Islamic capital market. So or his thesis from University of Glasgow that time, I understand that he wrote on behavioral finance. So to see how the market reactions, etc. So he's very much aware of Gawrar and Maisir speculation and uncertainty things. So we can collaborate more papers, perhaps, with him. Or I would be encouraging him to come to Maryland for the conference, but I think he doesn't have the opportunity for this year. I think sometimes next year. So we have Dr. Diana. So he's our vice rector in charge of finance and administrations. Her thesis was on Wakaf wakaf or zakat? Wakaf, right? Zakat, sorry, zakat. Yeah, he just defended her thesis Viva last week, so it's very new on board. So the rest are actually our postgraduate and bachelor degree students, and we have our tax expert. Um, so good Mrs. Tutut. So she's very much on tax specialist, and also I always encourage her to compare tax and zakah all the time. And we have Sister Nuria. I mean, Nuria, you met her during the seminar in Jakarta a few days ago. So she is on the Islamic business program actually. So Islamic business management. So I just would like to, of course, this is something that we need to create. We have also Ustad Rusdi, you met him as well in the seminar actually last week, 2 days ago. So his thesis is on, he's doing a final year PhD program at University of Malaya in Malaysia. So your thesis is on smart contract, also blockchain, smart contract, fintech. So, but he's because his background is on very much on the or sorry in a thick. So he's looking at from that perspective. So yeah, well, of course we appreciate. Oh, we I have too many to introduce, but we have Dr. Dedi. He's well versed in Arabic, and Dr. Isha as well. Dr. Dedi graduated from Al Azhar University. Dr. Isha graduated from Malaysia, and also now currently finishing in Bandung. And we have Dr. Samsul. He's very much on education, yeah, Islamic educations. So of course, we appreciate different view, and then we need that to how to make sure that Islamic finance on the track. We I think we missed someone from Tazkia. He's Dr. Erwandi. Dr. Erwandi completed his bachelor, master's, and PhD from Qura, Makatul Mukarramah. So he's very sharp, critical. He condemns what Islamic finance practices today. So what we need you and we need him to make sure that Islamic finance on the track. We can't let the discrepancies growing in the view of Sharia, under the umbrella of Sharia. And we can't expect Sharia is too holy to fail, for instance, because we have lots of problems. We have issues on Dana Sharia Indonesia, for instance, and we have issues on Bank Muamalat, for instance. So we have mismanagement, we have miscalculation. We actually have the Sharia as a shortcut. So I think this kind of critical view has to be built among the students as well. That's why I always tell my students, you have to be critical. We can't just follow the flow and you admire Islamic finance in that such, in such a way that no defect at all in Islamic finance practices. Dr. Wiku has been working on capital market. I wrote some years ago, I condemn why you regard stocks as a Sharia compliant stock, although they gain 5%, 10% non-halal profit. Make it zero. Oh, cannot. We have to, have time to adjust it. Only recently, the fatwa has been released that is going to be reduced to 5%. So today is May. and it's going to OJK will release desk this 6 months desk, right? Islamic stock, Jakarta Islamic stock index. So I can see, or perhaps Dr. Wiku, will it be reducing in number because of the rules, 5% non-halal? It could reduce the number. So far, 60% stocks in the capital market are considered as a Sharia compliant. 60% the stocks traded in the capital market considered as Sharia compliant. But this month, I can guess that it's going to be further down because of that regulation. You cannot recognize 10% of non-halal income into your balance sheet, your profit and loss. Okay, so however, I myself was not a Muslim before. I embraced Konghuchu. It was not legalized, of course, at that time. Only for the past 15 years, Konghuchu now is started as the sixth religion in Indonesia. And I embraced Buddhism because Buddhism looked like Konghuchu. I went to the temples because we share the same temples. Of course, when we went there, we didn't worship Buddha. I was still Konghuchu. And then I embraced Christianity. I was a Christian. I went to the church and I found Islam. And that's it. Alhamdulillah, fortunately, I learned, or I was involved in a business before because my father and my mom are Chinese. So they involved me in the business where I could see the defect in the business where there's no value, there's no norm, there's no rules. A pope came to our house when I was small because my mom protested. There was lots of riba or interest charged by the loan shark. And the Pope said, hey you, this is my mom and this is her partner. And then, hey you, please remove the riba side because according to Exodus and then blah, 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 he mentioned it because our church was Catholic. And then at that time, they still recognized the verses, related to riba, the old statement. And then please remove the interest part of it. But you have to still pay the principal. I remember that very much during my childhood. I did not know Islam at all. My mother said, okay, we are doing the trading. Please make sure that you have a good, the scale is a really right scale. You have to put a little bit more. Don't worry, you're not going to, lose, but people will trust you more. Again, these values coming from my family. So if you want to know why Chinese is really good in business, they practice Islam. Because later on when I reverted to Islam, I found out, Surah Al-Mutaffifin told me about scaling. When I revert to Islam, when I learned about Surah Al-Baqarah, halalu bai' wa haramu riba. I said, that's it. Why I learned it after? My mom, my father did not know about this one. See, what I'm trying to say, we can judge Islamic finance as per it is available in the market. But I'm trying to bring you, please show me my ecosystem ABG model. I tried to bring you to see how Islamic finance could be on the right track where Dr. Ryan will come out with a new book. This is the true Islamic finance. Why? Because Rasulullah SAW did not teach Muslims to form Islamic banking? Do not teach Muslim how to form Islamic insurance company. Rasulullah SAW and the Sahaba went to the market, remember? How much is this one? And why are you doing this one? No, this is not according to Islam. And then even Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab, how much are you selling this for dirham? No, I know this is 2 dirham. I know you went there and then you collected all the traders to sell to you, and then you come to my market and you sell for dirham. You want to come to in my market to dirham, or you go. And then the Shifat binti Abdullah came after because he was busy, and then he asked Shifat binti Abdullah. And Shifat binti Abdullah also mentioned the same thing. Or you're against the rule of Sharia, you go out from the market. That's what I want to have. We do not need Islamic banking to do murabaha. We do not need Islamic banking to do mudarabah. We do not need Islamic banking to do ijar or whatsoever. We do not need. I can do murabaha with Bututut. I can do mudarabah with Ustaz Adil Mugani. And I used to have, actually, but he said Qadul Hasan or Hadiah. Khalas. So, because he's very kind. Every time I told him that I don't have enough salary for today, I need to pay this one, my shopping, etc. No worry, how much do you need? 1 million. Okay, khalas. So you can copy that. You can copy that. And that's what I want to have. And why? Because of the ecosystem is not there, Dr. Ryan. Because of the ecosystem is not there. So I myself live in a 2-3 worlds where I could see Islamic finance in essentially actually change your life. Myself has been changed because of Sharia. Because why? I connected my previous life where I said, this is what I want to. This is what I like. When, of course, out of that business tradition, I heard my father speaking over the phone. The phone last time, you have to clicking. Yeah, I remember that. And our phone is 234. I still remember that. 0721 234. I really remember numbers. So be careful with me because I know numbers very well. If you owe me, I know how much you owe me. But I may be weak very, very well with your names. So don't worry. But I see your face and all of you in my dua, inshallah. Especially Dr. Abdul Bugadi, my guru. So again, everybody, I could see that. Am I disappointed with the Islamic finance practices? Yes, of course. But am I living it? No, darling. I live in Malaysia for 10 years. When I revert to Islam, this is what Allah has designed everything to my life. I reverted to Islam, I ran away from home, from Batu Raja, from Lampung, and then I went to Jakarta, and Allah made me realize that Islam is your only decision to choose. And then I was attached with Masjid Istiqlal, Masjid Lao Tse. And then I work in the bank, everyone. In the bank, in the Chinese bank. I used scarf. First time wearing scarf. But when I work in the bank after SMA, I was, perhaps because I was pretty, they chose me because I was very young. I work in the bank. And you know what, Dr. Ryan? Next to me is the first Islamic bank in Indonesia. I work in the bank in 92. Next to me was Bank Muamalat Indonesia, where Dr. Diana worked before. And next to me, and I said, I compared myself. I work in the bank behind the corporate banking. So I was the corporate banking assistant. I knew how to set up not me setting up. I used to type 11% floating rate, blah, 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 blah. And I said, but I was not allowed to wear scarf because It was a Chinese bank. I went to Bank Muamalat. You know what, Dr. Ryan, are you all right with you sweating? Okay. Yeah, I went to the Bank Muamalat, and you know, they didn't wear scarf when they go out from the office. I said, there's something wrong with them. What the talent has, what is the mission of the talent? So from the very beginning, we had that error. We had that discrepancies. We had that mistake where we did not actually prepare good talents. The talents that have commitment to Islam, even unto today, I can assure you. If you really, we do survey in Islamic banking, all over Indonesia, whether they really have hard commitment to Sharia, say no. I can guarantee you. Even today, if you interview those who work in Islamic banking, I hope the people who work in the Islamic banking hear me. If we ask them, no, why? Even the directors, Islamic banking, they will say like this. All right, okay. You know, Sharia is the best. Please open an account in the Sharia. You know, I guarantee you with the best performance for this year, blah, 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 blah. After 5 years term, he was not again elected. You know what? I asked him, where are you now, Bapa? Where are you now? Are you working or are you attached with something or business? No, I'm now in a conventional bank. What? So there's something wrong with that, Dr. Ryan, which to me, I don't negotiate. Even till my reversion period at the time, 1991, up to today, I don't negotiate with conventional banking. Even I lived in Malaysia, of course, there's no something to surprise. If you live in Malaysia, lots of Islamic banks everywhere. But I lived in the UK for 6 years. I did not negotiate. I had an account, Islamic Bank of Ryan. I had an account, is in a Ryan Bank. I had an account in a Islamic window, Lloyd's Bank. Why? Because I want to say to them that your practice is not right. By then, I have to be there. I have to be inside. And I regard it as much better than conventional. Which one do you choose? Conventional or Sharia with defects? Which one do you choose? Conventional or Sharia with defects? Sharia with defects. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us to just to do it. Wa qul i'malu fasayarallahu amalakum wa rasulihi wal mu'minun. Because we were asked just to go ahead with that. Even our prayers, is it a perfect prayer that we have? I sometimes forgot my rakaat. I sometimes forgot what my surah when I was a imamah. I forgot about it. I was not fasih. But we still have to carry on. So again, come back to this, just very short. This is my, can you please show the whole thing so Dr. Ryan could. So Dr. Ryan, I argue that this one, how the ABG and then media aggregator and community should work together to make sure Islamic finance practices are on the track. First, academic. And the academic is not only at Tazkia or universities they're offering. For your information, Dr. Ryan, we have 900 programs all over Indonesia. They are related to Islamic economics, finance, business, and management, and banking. 900. Hundreds over universities offering those programs. The first one was Tazkia. Those people came to us, learn about how Tazkia, carried out the programs. And now they all, yesterday you met them. Working programs at the universities. Question is, are we going back today
and telling our children what is wa'ad, what is akad? Are we going to tell our children? I don't think so. This is what I've been encouraged. I'm not disappointed because Allah said, "Wakulik malu pasirullah." So I'm not disappointed. I just carry on what I think is it right. So you have to tell our children. You have to tell our children, our families. Then only you talk and you write a conference paper or your thesis on Islamic finance. Otherwise, please, kaburamaktan endam. Allah will not be happy with us. He will curse us because what we say is not what we practice. So tell us, tell your children, tell our children, tell our grandma, tell our parents. My Chinese families used to call me, Ania, please, what is this Islamic banking, Islamic banking? What are you talking? And I explained to them, and they said, bagut yeah, is it good? Yeah, it's good I went to Tokyo. There again, the Muslim community asked me to speak about Islamic finance. I met my non-Muslim friend there, and then he said, "Yeah, it really makes sense." Years ago I was a consultant on behalf of Tazkia, and one Japanese a contractor came, and then he is on behalf of a company that is a funder to fund container ships in Indonesia. And then he said, please tell me what is mudarabah and what is the difference between me. And then, at the end, he said, this is beautiful. This is what I think the best contract that I ever had in my life. So the appreciation coming when you realize the real meaning, the real concept of Islamic finance. So again, education. Education must start from home. Ummahat Madrasatul Ula. What are the Ummahat here in Tazkia busy with our teaching? Mr. Sipa, she has 3 children, small children. Sometimes she brings to the university. Dr. Ries has 3 children. They all have daughters. So they're all the future of Ummahat. Ummahat is us. Are we teaching our children about the akad was what Dr. Ryan said? Daddy, you promised me today. And you know what? I always teach the Ummahat, the mothers, during Raya or perhaps this coming next week, there's a festive, right? And usually the small children will be given some money, the envelope, right? You know what the mother said? Oh, please give mommy. Give it to me. Okay, mommy. Please, mommy. After 3 months, mommy, where's the money given by Uncle Grandis? Last week we went to buy your shopping bag. That money mommy used. Mommy, isn't it your responsibility? Oh no. Do you remember that a lot of expenses to carry, to bear? See how we actually teach our children not to use Islamic finance? That's to me, Islamic finance has that value that we do not practice at home. So, as a new Muslim, when I had my children, I said, "Yeah, Allah, I want to do what Rasulullah teaching us about Islamic finance." I said to my children, "Okay, look at this one. Mommy put in your account. Look at this one. Uncle Gandis give you 100,000. I put 100,000 over here." So he knows transparency. Inshallah, my children will not become corruptors. Because when you teach the children, you misuse the money, then why the corruptors rising in Indonesia among the Muslim community? Because we don't teach the value. And then I said, Rasulullah ﷺ started the business or observing business since he was child. Can I do that to my children? You know what? Hayan, 10 years old, or Royan, 7 years old, Layina, 10 years old, already knew about Musyarakah Mutanakis. Mommy, I sell this bakso, the meatballs in the UK, for 20 pounds. And then you said we have a profit sharing. And then you said your profit sharing is 70%. And I have 30%. The following months, you said my profit sharing getting 40%. Mommy, can I have 100% profit sharing? That's the value that I want you to put at home. Allah. Why don't we bring it home? Why are you studying in Tazkia about Musyarakah? Why? Why didn't you learn when you were small? Why? Then when you were going to retire, you tell me, oh, madam, please teach me Islamic business because I'm retiring next month. I said, it's too late. Because Rasulullah SAW, at your age, did not do trading anymore. So funny. Please, everyone, I encourage you, I urge you, bring Islamic finance values into your home. My brother, I told them, your brothers and sisters like to borrow money from you, right? What did you do? Do you have contract with them? No, I said they don't have the contract with them. Why? Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu idza tadayantum bidaini ila ajalin musamma faktubuhu wal yaktub bainakum katibun bil adl. I write my name, my brother's name. You owe me 1 million rupiah. You will need to bring it back to return to me 31st May 2026. Signed by, no, not signed by, witnessed by my husband and then her husband or his wife. My brother know already about it. And every time they want to come to me, I said, you will deal with this contract first. You say, yes, I will give you money. Even that 500,000 rupiah. Madam, you are so, you're like that? Yes. At least I have the barakah, I have the hasanah by applying that Surah Al-Baqarah to 8:2. That you all learn and then you write in your thesis, but you don't apply. So everybody, that is Islamic finance. That the beauty of Islamic finance lies in your hand, not in your just laisa bil qalam, laisa fil lisan faqat, laisa bil qalam faqat, lakin fi aql, fi qalb. That is Islamic finance. So by that, I believe, Dr. Ryan, if we, the Muslim, realize that, it's going to be, to me, we go back again to 1,400 years ago, where Siddiq, Amana, Fatona, Tabligh will be around our society. And the next is the business will come up with the education that they have, they will run a right business. And then the government as well. I spoke to OJK a few weeks ago, and student that I told you yesterday, right? The People Representative Commission 11. They said what? I don't think Islamic finance and Islamic conventional finance are different. Even after today, people say that like that. So again, the government, the education to the government, and the media, how much actually they prefer to say in the media. That is why every time I have programs, I always come up with the media. You name now everywhere in the media, Brother Yayan, because you joined that program. Because I encourage my team, blast. You send to the media, you send to the news reporters to talk about the beauty of Islamic finance and education system. So again, the last one. This one is actually aggregator, where everyone can be the aggregator. You convey that message. And then last one, the community. The community is very strong. So how actually we inculcate the Islamic finance values and then literacy in among the community,
2 days ago, we had that program in Hotel Sofian. That's what we have. So my last slide, my last diagram, please. And I believe as an educators or those who are seeking knowledge, including myself, I would like to encourage you, when are we going to start to learn about Islamic finance? How old? Tell me. How old do we need to start to learn about Islamic finance? How old? How old? 0? Yeah, because you see my model. Many, 6? Since in the womb. When you say, oh, I have to eat a proper food, halal food, according to Sharia. You cannot say, darling, can I have your wallet, please? I take 100,000, okay? I said to the wives, I said, this is haram because you took it without his consent. Even that small thing. So I said, 0 year, even, those who deliver babies in Tazkia, I did not give any gift. I gave them education or, tabung, saving, or hajj and umrah saving. Because from the beginning, they have to know about the beauty of Islamic finance in Indonesia. Because I've been traveling around the world and they see, oh yeah, we cannot get access here. It's like banking, blah, blah, blah. In Indonesia back then, so then we have lots of. So I want to show that how they can actually practice from the very beginning. And to my belief, if we do that in the very beginning, and then aqidah, our akhlaq, and sharia will also be improved from time to time. I think I have a lot to tell you, but I would like to give more time later on with Dr. Ryan to actually counter argue. But first, I believe I agree with you that we need to retrieve. We need to actually crack. Our society is ill, yes, and despite of trillion US dollars we have, but it still contribute to 5% even Islamic the financial sector around the world, in which in UCC CIMB Niaga Sharia and CIMB there are the same amount of payment installment that you would need to pay. It means they are the same, yes, in terms of numbers. But why can't they do differently? Because they are subsidiary and holding. They cannot fight each other, right? That's why in Indonesia, the regulation allow them to have double banking system, dual banking system. As long as dual banking system still exists, you will never see the pure Islamic finance. As long as you see dual banking system exists in the world, you will never see the correct Islamic finance system. Because the 95% still influence the rules, regulation, guidance, and as well, people still have their mind connected to the conventional banking. Even the scholars that you mentioned. Yes, the harmony between the scholars and then the capitalism, and also how they actually marketization, the industrializations. I also worked on the paper on logic. How the shifting from religion logic to corporate logic. What is this? How people shift from religion logic to market logic. Yes, I agree with you. That logic has been shifted because of the current situation where Islamic finance in the winning center. Islamic finance is just a small, a beautiful. I always say, moyang periangan. Moyang periangan is
West Java, a lady, a beautiful, like geisha in Japan, beautiful, attractive, but she's from a village, small village. She just trying to prove herself she's beautiful. Wallahu a'lam bishawab. Assalamualaikum wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam, for your insightful story and sharing with us. Okay, now let us welcome our third speaker, Dr. Ries Wulandari, for the final presentation. Dr. Ries, please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Sifa. Actually, being the last speaker is should be more relaxed, yeah. But I'm triggered from Dr. Ryan, also Professor Murniati. So I'm trying to speak maybe 10 minutes, inshallah, Ms. Sifa. So yeah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We have the paradox of Islamic finance preparing the year 2026 until 2046. Professor Murniati asked me why we put the year for our discussion this morning, Dr. Ryan. And I told Professor Murniati that, Madam Professor, I think we must imagine, we must have estimation what our young generation will face for the next maybe 2 decades. So I'm trying to put my presentation based on this title. Yeah, the first one. Next. Yeah, this is Quran Surah Al-Kahfi, verses 66 until 67. This ayat remind us how Nabi Khidir alaihissalam told to Nabi Musa alaihissalam to be patient during studying. So this ayat maybe remind us that when we learn something, maybe the hikmah is not today. The hikmah maybe will be tomorrow, next week, or next year. So Dr. Ryan, maybe your book that you write in 2024, yeah, give me, myself, hikmah at the first time I read that, last 2 weeks maybe, after email from Professor Murniati. But maybe I'm trying to have the hikmah, maybe not today, maybe next week or next month. So I'm trying, what is the best learn from your book? Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Okay, next. Yeah, I only put 2 outline. Number 1 is appreciation to Dr. Ryan Calder. Some interesting part. For the first time, I thought that you are Muslim. So I put self-criticism. But unfortunately, Professor Murniati told others, you're not Muslim, no problem. So sometimes we need mirror from others, yeah. We need mirror from others. Why Islamic finance still criticized, like Dr. Ryan write in his book. And then second is we have strategic framework. I'm trying to write regarding design thinking. How we come up with these critics from Dr. Ryan book, and we come up with design thinking to face halal economy innovation. I put from Gen Y, I'm Gen Y actually, last Gen Y. Mau banget ya. For Gen Z ya, you are Gen Z, part of you. So that's my outline. Bismillah, next. Yeah, this is part of your book. Di sini Dr. Ryan menjelaskan bahwa ketika beliau mengikuti conference di berbagai international conference, bertemu dengan Islamic scholar yang memakai jas rapi, mereka dipanggil Syekh atau doktor. Islamic scholar dalam forum-forum internasional menjadi orang yang sangat sibuk menghadapi berbagai pertanyaan, menjawab berbagai diskusi. Dan mereka terbang dari satu negara ke negara lain. seperti itu perkembangan diskusi Islamic finance dalam forum-forum internasional. I'm trying to speak in Indonesia. So yeah, I put after the panel ended, small crowds throng the scholar. Mereka akan gitu ya. Kalau saya gitu, saya akan cari foto dengan pembicara, profesor gitu ya. Kalau saya, for me, take a picture with you, with professor means that insya Allah someday I will like them, maybe submit good paper, insight, give insight like you and Professor Murniati. And I hope that Allah will write as my amal soleh inshallah. Okay, so this is a nice opening from the book. Yeah, elite Sharia scholar get celebrity treatment at conferences. During the question and answer period at the Malaysian event, okay, bla bla bla. Ya, seperti itu ya ceritanya. Ini beliau tulis di bukunya. Next. So I'm trying, what is actually the paradox? Dr. Ryan and Professor Murti already mentioned before, but I'm trying to tackle the paradox. Number one, the PT versus profit paradox. Jadi paradoks kesolihan versus keuntungan. Number second is global uniqueness paradox, like he mentioned before that only Islamic finance have huge a huge number in the world, but not with other religion, yeah, such as Christian or Yahudi, yeah. Okay, second, these are the two paradox. Next. And then we are come up with the two ethical frameworks, a debate. So number one, we have moral economist vision. Visi ahli ekonomi yang masih memegang moral, it is rooted in Islamic neo-revivalist movement of the early century, and then they are emphasizing social welfare and viewing Islamic finance as a tool to creating more equitable economic system. Dr. Ryan and I told you that maybe some or most of us, I believe that they still put this moral economics as our value. Some of us research at poverty, eradication, like Dr. Dina and her thesis. Some of us trying to have eradication of inequality. Also, how we increase our index of health. I think that's kind of moral economist vision. Second is Sharia scholar vision. So the second framework is, it is ensured in classical Islamic jurisprudence focused on ensuring individual transaction comply with religious. And then again, you put at the end that the role of Sharia as an ethical moral principle to prevent economic exploitation shifts. We are shifting, according to Dr. Nayan, we shift market-friendly de-risking tool to legitimize modern product so the Muslim market accept them. Jadi ada pergeseran peran dari syariah yang awalnya adalah kunci etis, pegang prinsip moral, menjaga eksploitasi ekonomi, menjadi sekedar mengurangi resiko pasar. Ini kritik untuk yang beliau tulis untuk kita gitu ya. Dan tadi Profesor Murniati benar-benar mengingatkan, men-trigger kita, ayo dong praktekin ilmu syariah gitu ya, ekonomi syariah, nggak hanya nulis aja gitu. Okay, next. Okay, so we have a highlight here. The book comparison contribute to our understanding of how religious economic ethics evolve in dialogue, in political, economic, regulation, and so on. And also we must accept this kind of dynamic every day, every year. And of course, then how should we respond to this evolution? Dr. Ryan put evolution rather than using revolution, yeah? Maybe you can explain to us, not revolution. Then for the next 2026, 2046, we have our own concern. So in my humble opinion, this is the fact, this is the critics, but how we respond to this kind of critics, of self-critics, we have maybe every single of us have our concern. So me myself, like my guru said before, Professor Murniati, rather than critics single step or the effort that our founding father have proved, better we are doing what we can do. Better we are contributing What can we contribute? Daripada mengkritik kemudian nggak bikin apa-apa, kayaknya kita lebih baik bikin sesuatu gitu ya, walaupun kecil. Setuju nggak? Nggak yakin setujunya, setuju nggak? Setuju, oke. Oke, thank you. Saya sepakat dengan Profesor Murniati. Ayo dong buat yang terbaik gitu ya. Then we have our concern. Next, please. Yeah. So, Dr. Ryan, rather than using Islamic finance, I'm trying to using halal economy. This is part of our university vision, ecosystem for halal industry, global halal industry. So I put this title, Strategic Framework for Halal Economy Innovation via Design Thinking. So rather than, okay, give the pure of Islamic finance practices that we are still trying to do that. Why we don't try to do our best? So this is what I'm trying to write here. Silahkan. Yeah, this is halal economy short definition. I put some halal logo there, and also halal tourism Indonesia. So what I'm trying to write here is halal economy is not just Islamic financial, but also good halal food and then halal tourism and so on. Nice. Yeah. Also, this is one of paper that I'm trying to prove whether actually Islamic finance as part of halal economy contribute to our economic growth. Unfortunately, halal Islamic finance has no significant contribution to our growth. This is part of one research, not my research. Okay, so ini bukan penelitian saya, penelitian seseorang teman dari Universitas Indonesia. This research show that halal food has significant positive effect, but halal pharmaceutical and cosmetic exhibit negative impact. This is because part of their cost is from import, yeah. Okay, and then the last one is unfortunately Islamic finance do not show statistically significant effect on economic growth. So I think rather than critique this kind of Islamic finance, we still have a very big homework to do with this kind of Islamic finance. Okay, inshallah. So next. Yeah. So what is design thinking? This is part of human-centered approach. I read here because most of the participant is our student, Dr. Ryan. So I challenge them to have design thinking, a human-centered approach to innovate that draws from designers toolkit to integrate what? Number one, needs of people. Kita harus ketemu kebutuhan orang. The possibility of teknologi, kita mesti pakai teknologi, teman-teman semua tahu teknologi, digital teknologi dan seterusnya. And that third one is requirement for business success. Kita bikin desain cakep, teknologinya cakep, tapi nggak masuk akal dalam segi bisnis, nggak ideal. So I put from Tim Brown ya, salah satu pakar di design thinking. Next. Oke, ini proses berpikir desain. We have exploration, focus, experimental, and we have iteration. Okay, next. This part. Some theory regarding design thinking. Okay. Next. Yeah. So what I want to mention here is the global halal economy is shifting from an religious market to a mainstream powerhouse ethical consumption. Halal ekonomi nggak hanya sekarang bicara kepatuhan syariah, tapi menjadi gaya hidup, ya, gaya hidup yang diterima oleh masyarakat global sebagai pola konsumsi yang full etik, pola konsumsi yang lengkap, halal, thayyib, dan berkelanjutan. So halal economy is not only a nice religious market, but also powers of ethical consumption. Okay, consumption in terms of food, pharmaceutical, finance, and so on. Also contribute to the quality of Muslim life. So this is the trigger why we should consider innovation in this kind of economy. And then second, the blue one, but we must be competitive.
The strategy must move beyond just Syariah compliance model toward innovation first model. Like you mentioned in class. So sebagian, okay, most of our discussion in class is trigger innovation ya. Di kelas itu mahasiswa kalau di my student, if we trigger to have innovation, they are very happy. Rather than like, please review this kind of book, but please innovate by your own thinking. What should we do with this kind of problem? So I propose design thinking. It is also for answering what Dr. Ryan critic us. Kalau teman-teman baca bukunya tuh seru. Di akhir itu ada kayak perpaduan ya. Kita mesti ngikutin yang mana gitu ya. Western bagian mana atau yang syariah sebagian mana. Oke. Design thinking menurut saya, in my humble opinion, provides the methodology to bridge the gap between strict syariah compliance and then superior user experience, UX ya. So please use this kind of methodology to make your own contribution to our halal economy. The last one maybe, yeah, this is some opportunity. So yeah, inshallah, I'm trying to write the projected global spending. Islamic finance become the second number ya. Oh sorry, the first number ya. For global halal spending in 2030. So what can we contribute to this kind of market? You can use your imagination or design thinking to make prototype, maybe technology that support this philanthropy of Islam. You can use AI, digital, and so on to make zakat on wakaf distribution platform. Ini masih perlu banget teman-teman. Oke, yang lain-lain silahkan dibaca sendiri. Oke, next. This is some challenges. Okay, we still have halal gap, traceability fatigue, and fragmented standard. Yeah, there's also room for us to contribute to this kind of halal economy. The last one. Next. Yeah. So based on I put for edition requirement, what we should have in design thinking from Islamic value perspective. Okay. We have desirability, viability, and visibility. This is from Tim Brown. And then I put, we must have Sharia compliant. We must remember Muqasidul Sharia purposes. And then we must remember that this kind of design must increasing our Muslim quality in terms of individual, family, society, nation, and globally. The last one is we should have orientation for Jannatul Firdaus, Ridha Allah hereafter. So rather than using only 3 points from Brown, we put 4 letters. Okay. The last one, yeah. Bismillah, this is you, our student, the next Muslim scholar from Tazkia University. We are waiting for your contribution to this halal economy, Islamic finance development in the future. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Masya Allah. Thank you, Dr. Ries Wulandari, for the wonderful presentation. What an incredibly rich and insightful session from our 3 speakers. Please give them another round of applause. Okay. Now we have come to the Q&A session, question and answer session. We invite questions from both our offline audience here in the room and our online participants. Yeah. Okay. Okay. The first question come from Dr. Firdaus. Silakan.
Bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Ryan, to see you reminding me to someone that I have ever seen in 2005 in Jakarta in one seminar. He is the author and Christian, Canadian, yeah. But in every book that he wrote, he mentioned about one hadith, blah 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 blah. Every chapter in the books, Hubert Ramsat, he improved concept of balance shortcut from Kaplan and Norton to personal balance score. So we appreciate to you. Thank you to for your contribution in Islamic finance. Yeah. The question is paradox in Islamic finance. I means, yeah. You mentioned about the ayat. Allah give us to growth the sedekah, ya, forbid to riba, ya. But the paradox is based on your data. Indonesia is the most Muslim and Pakistan, ya. But the real condition, ya, I forgot the Indonesia is maybe 20, ya. The position is the 20 in Islamic banking in based on your data, ya. 20 or 21, ya. Indonesia. Marcus, ya. Marcus. Yeah, I mean Indonesia is the most Muslim people, yeah. But the data, yeah. But the data is the number 20. It is the paradox, yeah. And the paradox, the second paradox is Allah contrary about the riba and sedekah. Yeah. If the Indonesian get for the seven the most generous country from who what the organization from what giving index, Indonesia awarded for 7 years the most generous country. Yeah. It is not paradox because Allah give us to grow the sedekah. It's my my opinion. Yeah. So if you maybe you have the plan to improve your book, I think this the interesting thing, yeah, to to make this condition to the next your plan. Yeah. Okay, that is just the my opinion. Yeah. Paradox not just from there are many religion in the world. Yeah. But just Islamic finance in the world. Yeah. Not from other religion. Yeah. The paradox is Allah give order to us, yeah, sedekah, but we just focus in Islamic banking. It is the paradox. Yeah, it is my opinion. Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the comment and suggestion, yeah, from Dr. Ahmad Firdaus to Dr. Ryan. Do you have any comment, feedback, or answer?
Thank you very much, Dr. Firdaus. I'm not sure if I think that was more of a comment than a question. Okay. No, actually, yeah, I'll let that stand on its own. Yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciated your comments, Dr. Murniati. I want to be clear about something. You know, you mentioned maybe I could write a book about how Islamic finance should be. I will not write that book because I am not, it's not my place to say how Islamic finance should be. Okay. I'm not Muslim. And also, I want to clarify, I think what might be a misconception of the book. The book is not a criticism of Islamic finance. It is absolutely not a criticism of Sharia scholars at all. Okay. And I didn't have time to present this section, but if I could have even like 5 minutes just to say, maybe to present a couple of other slides, would that be okay? Could I possibly put my slide deck back up? So I mentioned there are these 4 functions that Sharia scholars play. And the 4th one is restriction. And what I mean by this is that what do banks do? Banks try to make money. Every bank, everywhere in the world, all through history, with a few exceptions. Sometimes you have social banks, sometimes you have government banks, sometimes you have nonprofit banks. But for-profit banks, what do? They try to make money. And in fact, in Indonesia and in most countries, by law, they have to try to make money. If I am the CEO of a bank, Islamic bank or conventional bank, and I say, you know what? Especially if it's a publicly traded company, a corporation that is traded on a stock exchange, say, right? People can invest in my bank. But I say, you know what, today, I don't care about the shareholders. What I really want is to improve Indonesia's environmental condition. I want to reduce pollution. So maybe we'll lose money this quarter, but we're going to put all of our profits into fighting pollution. I don't know. I'm not here to say it's good or bad. What I can tell you is you can't do it from a legal perspective. Forget about Islamic law. From a secular legal perspective, you cannot do it because you will be sued by your investors because it is your legal duty under Indonesian law, under US law, under British law, under Japanese law, whatever, to try and maximize profits for the company and for the investors. So there's a tension here, right? Bankers everywhere want to make money. Islamic bankers and conventional bankers. That is their job, and I'm not sure we can blame them for that. I certainly don't blame them for that in my book. Sorry, is there any way to jump? This is Sheikh Dr. Usaid Al-Kailani. He's originally from Syria, but he is now the head of the Sharia department, internal Sharia department, not the Sharia board, internal Sharia department at Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. He's a very powerful scholar in the GCC. And he said to me, this is on the topic of Maqasid al-Sharia. He said, some people like to talk about Maqasid al-Sharia, but I don't recommend that because Maqasid al-Sharia is something very wide and very general. How do you know if an Islamic bank is by issuing a murabaha financing or whatever, a musharaka financing to a car company, are they advancing Maqasid al-Sharia? Well, you could say yes, because the car company is supporting the Indonesian economy. But you could say no, because car companies pollute, unless it's an electric car company, whatever, right? He said, so this is very complicated. Other people are experts in industrial policy and environmental policy. It's their job. My job as a Sharia scholar is not to decide that. He said, instead of focusing on maqasid al-Sharia, I think, he said, this is not me, this is him. He said we should focus on maqasid al-uqud, the objectives of contracts. If we are doing al-ijara, it should function like an ijara is recommended to function in fiqh al-muamalat. If we are doing whatever, again, musharaka, wakala, it should function properly in that way. Now, I am not here to say this is right or wrong, but what I am here to say is there's an interesting tension. There's a tension between this view of maqasid al-uqud and maqasid al-sharia. And maqasid al-uqud is more compatible with allowing Islamic banks to compete in a market. But it does not mean that banks can do whatever they want. And this is where I get to the issue of restriction. Let me tell you a story about Judaism, the Jewish case. In Judaism, for over 2,000 years, most rabbis, most scholars of Jewish law said it was not acceptable for one Jew to charge interest to another Jew. Okay? But Jews in Europe in the 18th and 19th centuries faced a lot of discrimination and a lot of persecution. They were often forced to live by themselves and so on. And some rabbinical scholars said, we can come up with a new contract. It's called Heter Iska. And this Heter Iska contract allows you to take a loan, something that's like a loan, but actually structure it as a partnership. It's a lot like a mudaraba contract, very similar. Okay. Today, if you go to Israel, many banks have a piece of paper on the wall. It is a Heter Iska. This is the equivalent of a fatwa, but in Judaism. And what does it say? It says that all the lending that is happening in this bank is not actually lending. It's actually a partnership between the customers and the bank. Okay. Now, this is kind of like Islamic finance, but it goes much further. If you go this far, you don't need Islamic finance. You don't need Jewish finance. You just have a paper on the wall. Now, there are Sharia scholars in Islam who say banks want to make money. Okay, because if they don't make money, Islamic banking will disappear. And that will be bad for the ummah. But we have to draw a line. And this is what I mean by restriction, drawing this line. And some people are very critical of Sharia scholars, and they say they'll do anything that the banks tell them to do. Why? Because the banks are paying them. And I did not know whether this was correct when I started my research. But I argue in my book that this is not correct. I believe the Sharia scholars do draw a line. And in fact, the line is becoming clearer. Actually, there is, the more money, the more investment goes into Islamic finance, the more Sharia we have, actually. You might think that the more money goes into it, Islam gets washed away. Sharia gets washed away. Nobody takes it seriously anymore. The bankers can do anything. But I argue the opposite. This is very interesting, I think. So what is restriction? Restriction is preventing financial institutions, preventing banks, say, stop, don't go too far. This line is riba, this line is gharar, this line is maisir. And our job is to tell you where the line is. But if you banks try to cross it, we won't sign the fatwa saying it's okay. And they really do this, I believe. So let me give you an example. Some of you may know this, surely the faculty know this. In 2008, Mufti Taqi Usmani, who is a very powerful figure in Islamic finance, but also in Pakistan in general as a Deobandi Mufti, he said that most of the sukuk in the world are not Sharia compliant. He kind of just said it all of a sudden. And the next year, sukuk issuance dropped massively. Which means what? Which means people care what he said. He didn't have to say it. No one thought he was going to say it, but he said it. Another example. So this is Sheikh Hussein Hamid Hassan. He was from Egypt. Allah yarhamhu, he died in 2020. Some people call him one of the fathers of Islamic finance. This is Sheikh Yusuf Talar Di Lorenzo from America. He was Sheikh Hassan's student, and they were colleagues at the International Islamic University of Islamabad in Pakistan. They're both very important figures in Islamic finance. But in 2000, I don't remember the year, maybe 2007, 8, Deutsche Bank, big European conventional bank, German bank, that was involved in Islamic finance. They had a small unit called Dar al-Istithmar. It was run by a guy named Humayun Dar. And they did all kinds of very advanced Islamic financial engineering to design new Islamic products. And one of them they called the Islamic Total Return Swap. What is the Islamic Total Return Swap? Okay, for those of you who specialize in finance, to get into technical detail, it is a way to synthetically reproduce a halal portfolio, an haram portfolio, a non-halal portfolio in a halal way. So I can talk about the details to anyone afterward who's interested, but basically what this says is you are Muslim, you can invest in a beer company. You can invest in a pork company. You can invest in a company that makes pornographic movies, and you can collect the returns. But you're not directly investing, okay? You're sort of indirectly investing. It's like if I told you, you could buy a fund, you could buy a contract that gives you all the returns from the Jakarta Stock Exchange, but you don't actually buy the stocks, okay? You just get the returns from a different way. You promise me if the Jakarta Stock Exchange goes up, you give me money. If it goes down, I lose money, okay? But I don't actually buy the stocks. This is very similar to that. And Sheikh Hussein Hamid Hassan, he signed off. He signed the fatwa. He said, this is okay. And Sheikh Yusuf, his former student, said, no, this is not okay. And he wrote a very angry letter that went around the world. Now, this is brave. He spoke out against his guru. Usually Sharia scholars don't do this at this level. But he said, no, why not? Because if we allow this product, then khalas, no more Islamic finance. Then you want to invest in vodka company, you want to invest in a whiskey company, Islamic investment, no problem. Then we end up like the Heteriska. In Israel, you just have a piece of paper on the wall. You can do anything. Meaningless. And eventually, the 2008 economic crisis happened, and the industries, they stepped back from the line. They said, maybe we should not reproduce all these instruments that let banks do anything they want. Okay? So my point here is, I did not write this book to say Islamic finance, excuse my language, Islamic finance is bullshit and it's just a fake and don't do it. Or I also did not write the book to say that Islamic finance is a cure to everything and, you know, that's not my job. I'm not even Muslim. My job, I see it, is to describe different approaches, what different people think, what different people do, how different instruments work. To be clear, when I was telling you at the beginning of my talk, please be critical, you can be critical of Islamic finance, not if you want. What I was asking is please be critical of me. Please say, okay, I read your book, here's where you're wrong. Or this is what I didn't understand about your talk. Please be critical of me, okay? You can be critical of whatever. That's all I was saying. Okay. So, yeah, again, this is just to say, you know, here's another example. Maybe some of you have heard in Malaysia of Bursa Suka Sila. This is a way to do commodity murabaha or tawarruk by trading palm oil. You know all about palm oil. This is Indonesia, right? Now, you don't have to read this. It's very complicated. But what I want to tell you, this is Sheikh Ali Al-Quradagi. He is originally Kurdi, but lives in Qatar. He was on the Sharia board of a bank, many banks, but I don't remember which bank it was. Actually, they didn't tell me. But I went to Malaysia, to Bursa Malaysia, and talked to them. And he said, wow, he asked so many hard questions. So many questions. And then he said, I want to go to the palm oil storage facility to see if they really keep the palm oil where you say they keep the palm oil. And then this man, you know, at the time, he's maybe my, you know, he's not a young student like you guys. He climbed to the top of one of these tanks and looked around to check to make sure, okay? So my point is, the Sharia scholars care. But what they're not checking for is like maqasid al-Sharia. What they're checking for is uqud, right? Again, I'm not here to say this is good or this is bad. What I am here to say is this is what allows Islamic finance to function and succeed commercially as a business in a world, in a capitalist world, in a world where they have to compete against conventional Islamic banks. That, I think, is the message of my book. And I just wanted to kind of clear that up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Maybe there's some question from the online participant. Yes. On the chat box or chat box. Okay. Let me read it to Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear Mr. Ryan, Madam Ani, and Mrs. Ries, I am Arafat Garuda from Indonesian Muslim Entrepreneur Community. I'd like to ask simple question. Can you scroll? From your perspective, to increase the quality over the quantity, especially for Indonesian people, how can Indonesian Muslims enhance their Islamic financial literacy when their financial awareness develop beyond the ideal phase of financial education stages? Family has been practicing non-Islamic finance for years. How to help them? Yeah. And then
I think this is definitely a question for Professor Murniati.
Ada lanjutannya nggak?
Because I can speak to them.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't
Yeah, we
really
need
have
your
from your perspective, Ryan. Anything.
Madam will add some maybe.
To increase Islamic financial, honestly, go to Sakina Finance's website. Like,
Masya Allah.
no, not at all. Not at all. Of course not.
Just got endorsement.
No, I mean, this is a very good question, and I'm impressed and grateful that this person cares enough to ask. But honestly, I'm really not the right person to this question.
No, I think Dr. Ryan has already right answer. Come to my training. Thank you. We have another question from Rosnia.
Okay. Miss Rosniar,
Rosnia,
you can unmute the mic and
yeah, she's
Sure.
based in Aceh. She's our alumni. She's one of the tsunami victims at that time. We sponsored her to come to Tazkia to study, and she's now I think she's currently doing her Ph.D. and she's at Bank Syariah Indonesia. As a
okay,
senior.
Miss Rosniar.
Rosniar, yes.
Assalamualaikum
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
But my video is not available, I think.
All right. Okay.
But it's
sorry.
okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much from Mr. Rian and Madam Ani. Actually, I'm graduated from Tazkia. I'm very happy to be part of Tazkia University. And my name is Rosniar. You can call me Niar. I am Syariah banker of Bank Syariah Indonesia as a regional Syariah compliant representative in Aceh, actually. This structure is based on OJK regulations. We have a mandate to control the activity of Sharia in funding, financing, and also in operation of Bank Syariah Indonesia. Actually, Bank Syariah Indonesia is the largest Islamic bank in Indonesia. As a leading Islamic bank, one of our key challenge is how to stay true to Sharia principle while also maintaining our strong performance. This is mentioned in your book, Mr. Rian, actually. So my question is, based on your research, how do you think Islamic bank, especially in Indonesia, like M.Si, to balance between Sharia compliance and also business sustainability in practice? And the second question is, what is a practical approach from Islamic bank, like maybe Dubai Bank or Malaysian bank, to manage this paradox? Thank you very much for your time and your answer. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Miss Rosniar. Dr. Ryan.
Is it okay if so first of all, Ibu Rosnia, thank you very much for the question. I just want to say before I start, I went to Banda Aceh in maybe 5 years ago, and I was so impressed. I went to the Tsunami Museum, and I was so amazed by the work that the people of Banda Aceh and all of northern Sumatra, Aceh in particular, have done to recover from the tsunami. So many blessings to you, and I was just astounded. Regarding Bank Syariah Indonesia, I mean, this is probably a longer conversation, and I'd be very happy to talk with you and M.Si offline, not for money, just to talk. What I can tell you, I spent a lot of time at banks in Pakistan, in Saudi Arabia, in the not as much in the UAE, but some in the UAE, some in Malaysia. And I think people that are doing the kind of work you do in the internal Sharia department are very important. And I think that the leadership of the internal Sharia department, I think from an organizational perspective, when they are raised to a level where they are meeting regularly with the CEO and the CFO, and they are part of the decision-making process, then Sharia compliance really becomes sort of a culture within the bank. So one place I saw this, for example, was in Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. Another place where I saw this was at Mizan Bank in Pakistan. It's a gentleman named Ahmed Ali Siddiqui, who is the head of the Sharia department there. Maybe you know him. And, you know, I'm happy to put you in touch with him if you don't, but like, he was respected by all of the top management of the bank. And when he said something, khalas, like that was it. If he said, you can't do it, you can't do it. So that's a difficult thing to achieve in a bank whose shareholders want it to make money. You know, there are a lot more details. There's a whole chapter or a whole section of a chapter on my book about internal Sharia departments, about Sharia auditing, and these kinds of things. So yeah, like please email me and we can set up time to talk.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ryan. Okay, time flies when we are learning so much. Is there any more question from online participant? Online or offline participant? Students, Dr. Ryan wants to talk to students. Oh, Dr. Ryan is quite good in bahasa. Oh. Habis itu masuk. Okay. Maybe Dr. Ryan will ask you to join. Okay, the last one.
I'm sorry, I'm speak in Indonesia. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Iya. Baik, Bismillah. Hasil akhir murabaha dan kredit konvensional itu sering identik dengan bayar lebih, tenornya sama dan telat bisa kena denda. Nah, kalau nih Allah itu melarang riba karena eksploitasi. Apakah mengganti bunga? Kan kita nih di bank syariah ngomongnya margin, bukan bunga. Nah, kalau bank syariah itu bukan ngomong pinjaman, tapi jual beli. Nah, otomatis itu tuh kayak menutup riba gitu ya, menutup eksploitasi. Itu mengubah bahasanya aja gitu. Padahal sebenarnya sama gitu kalau kita lihat ya. Nah, kayak misalnya gini, kalau telat bayar itu kayak barangnya ditarik nih sama bank syariahnya gitu. Oke. Many young Muslims are becoming more critical of Sharia compliant labeling. How can Islamic finance regule authentic and trust among Gen Z? Thank you.
You haven't mentioned your name and department. Yeah, you should introduce yourself first.
Is Elta Mizul Koto dari from jurusan ekonomi syariah.
Elta from Islamic Economics Department.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Ries students. Elta. Okay, please, Dr. Jamil Abbas. You can unmute your mic. Pak Jamil, silakan.
Thank you very much. I'm still not allowed to turn on my video, so until now. Can you hear me clearly? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Yes, Dr. Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, one of your main point is you're telling us that Islamic finance and conventional finance are currently very, very similar. And actually we need to create a real economic impact, not just any impact, but economic impact. Do you have any suggestion to us on what kind of changes that Islamic finance can do immediately to make such difference, to create a real economic impact? Do you see any opportunity to do that in this near future? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start with Pak Jamil. So thank you for the question. So basically, you're wondering what Islamic finance can do to have more social impact. Is that correct?
Actually, more economic impact, the difference that you wanted to see. Yeah? At the moment, you don't see any significant economic differences here.
Yeah.
So what should we do in order to create a real difference, real impact?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I mean, first of all, there are a lot of people doing great work on this question, including scholars in this room, other scholars, Professor Mehmet Asutai, our mutual friend, Professor Habib Ahmed, they're both at University of Durham, my friend Professor Obayatullah at M.Si, like a lot of wonderful people. I think that the type of Islamic financial innovation that will support development can be of two types. Living as we do in a market-driven system, right? So one is providing a larger sort of Islamic economic outreach to poor people, to new industries, to developing industries. And these are often through nonprofit channels, right? So this is often through zakat, sadaqah funds. This may be through intelligent use of awqaf. This may be through some types of microfinance, right? But I also think there's, to me, and there's some really wonderful work being done on that front. There's another type of innovation, which I think is particularly happening in capital markets. So I talk about one example in my book, which is oil-linked sukuk, right? So imagine that you are a country such as Indonesia that exports oil, right? When the price of oil goes up, your country, more money comes into the economy, but when it goes down, your economy is hurt, broadly speaking, right? This is a difficult vulnerability for an economy that is relatively heavily dependent on resource exports, oil and palm oil and rubber and so on. In order to manage this, the government of Indonesia could do something called, GDP-linked sukuk, which is where the sukuk payment that you have to make may depend on GDP, or commodity-linked sukuk, where the return on the sukuk you have to pay may depend on the price of oil, or the price of rubber, or the price of palm oil, right? Now, there are people who are working on structuring these kinds of things Islamically so that they can, structuring these kinds of things Islamically. I'm happy to put you in touch with them if you like. I think that's sort of a very exciting area. So I'll stop there. And Ibu Elta, can you just repeat? Oh, sister. Okay, sister. Sorry.
Sister.
Can you repeat the question in English?
Let me. Doctor, how can Islamic finance rebuild authenticity and trust among Gen Z?
Gen Z. My students are Gen Z too. They all make fun of me. I try to use cool Gen Z words and they laugh. They say, please stop. But seriously, I think that Gen Z wants substance. You know, I think that Gen Z wants, they want two things. They want very tailored products that really meet their preferences. And then they want things that are substantively different. And so I think this is a real opportunity for Islamic finance to move into, for example, green financing, green sukuk, right? And to make those things available for young people, even in a small micro investing type situation. I'm sorry, I was speaking through the adhan. Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing I would say is like clear, plain explanations. I think Gen Z wants things to be clear, not like we have a million, you know, business frameworks and these, you know, strategy, like, you know, this kind of business school language is like all over the world, and some of it's like smoke screen, you know, just clear. This is what the banks are doing. This is how you structure a product. This is what's good for you. This is what might be bad for you. I think that's very important. But I would also like to know your opinion.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ryan. Mashallah. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of our Q&A session. I'd like to thank all the participants for their active and thought-provoking questions. And please give a warm round of applause to our three phenomenal speakers, Dr. Ryan, Prof. Murniati, and Dr. Ries. Thank you to the faculty, the organizing committee, and everyone attending online and offline. I'm Shifa, signing off as your moderator. Have a wonderful day ahead. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oh ya, ada pesan dari Madam. We still have question. Oh, okay. For those who still have question, we still have another session after Zuhur, actually at 1 p.m. with Madam Ani and Dr. Ryan in Monday forum session with Madam Ani students from Magister, from Master students. So if you still have question to Dr. Ryan or Madam Ani and Tazkia student, you can join the Monday forum, yeah. We will share the Zoom link. Kasiska, please share to the chat box as well. Yeah, don't forget 1 p.m. today. The same link. Okay, you can still meet and ask Dr. Ryan if you still have further question. Okay, thank you. I'm giving back the session to the MC Abdullah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right. Thank you to our distinguished speaker, Dr. Ryan Masra Calder, Professor Murniati Mukhlisin, Dr. Ries Wulandari, and our moderator, Ibu Shifa Amalia, for insightful and engaging discussion. We have certainly gained many new perspectives and valuable knowledge from today's session. Next in line, we will proceed to the token of appreciation session. May I invite Dean of Faculty of Islamic and Business, Bapak Wiku Suryomurti Ph.D. to present the token of appreciation to our speaker, Dr. Ryan Matsura Calder, and into Professor Murniati Mukhlisin. And may I invite Dr. Sutopo as a head of Institute for Research and Community Empowerment at Tazkia Islamic University to give the appreciation to Professor Murniati Mukhlisin and Dr. Ries Wulandari. Please take your place. While okay, thank you. For the next appreciation will given by Dr. Sutopo as a head of Institute for Research and Community Empowerment at Tazkia Islamic University to Professor Murniati Mukhlisin and Dr. Ries Wulandari. One, look at camera. 1, 2, 3, smile.